We're live on YouTube now, David. You're all set.
All set. All right, meeting call to order. Today is Tuesday, March 30th. It is now 6:01 p.m. Town Council meeting via Zoom to discuss fiscal year 22 public hearing. Roll call.
Okay, Councilwoman Williamson?
Here.
Council President Dave Goslin?
Here.
Councilman Jason Messier, sorry.
Sir, here.
Councilman Jason Licciardi
Here.
and Councilman John D'Amico.
Here.
And before we get started, this is Sarah, welcome. I know
Thank
this
you.
is your second day on the job. And welcome to your first budget hearing for West Warwick.
Thank you.
All righty. Mark or Kristen, do you want to start where we stand on our budget and overall?
Sure, I'll start with, just for those of us that are just joining for the first time tonight. Tonight is the third evening of the process for the town council for consideration of the proposed fiscal 2022 budget. The key points for this, as for the budget proposal that I presented a few weeks ago that you're considering tonight, initially the total budget increase was projected at slightly more than 5.4 million. That's inclusive of 2.1 million in municipal expenses and a little more than 3.3 million for school state aid pass-through appropriation. The levy increase was projected at 2.01 or a little more than 1.2 million. The estimated tax rate increase proposed was 2.1%, dependent on the finalized tangible annual returns. The funds included in general government for the collective bargaining process. Capital expenditures requested were $436,000. The budget contained payment of 100% of our pension ARC. $358,000 was included for property reevaluation process in this fiscal year. The tax collection rate was increased from 96.8 to 97.0%. And we proposed using $500,000 from fund balance as a balance mechanism. As you're all aware, the revenue budget portion has been very fluid, foremost by the finalized tangible annual returns and also the American Rescue Plan that we're still getting information on how we can spend that money, when we're going to get it, and how it might affect this proposed budget in a year or two to follow.
Any questions for Mark? We have two attendees in the audience. And again, this is for public hearing. If you have any specific item that you want to bring up for our budget, please raise your hand. And I know Steve O'Rourke is here on behalf of the Housing Authority. I know he's going to want to speak, but once he raises his hand, I know he's ready to speak. And right now we have 3 people in attendance.
So right now we're at a 2% tax increase going forward. Am I right?
With what I presented, yes.
Okay.
Was there any changes to the revenue side for taxes?
Kristen, you want to handle that one?
So we've gained some assessed value in our tangibles, which has shifted the percentage at this point. It's definitely put us in a better position. So, but it is fluid, as we know. The tangible returns are still being processed, so, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. So if are we at a 2.1% increase in the tax rate? Probably not anymore. It's definitely less than that.
Can I ask one question before we start? I'm sorry. This is public comment. Have we made the documents available to the public?
Yes, they're on the website.
And can you point,
They're
can
on
I
the
have a
website.
couple? I have a couple people asking me where to get to them. They evidently can't find them, and I didn't look for them, to be honest with you.
So they're on two spots. If you go to the West Warwick, Town of West Warwick page, they're under important documents, and they're also on the finance department's page, right at the top of the list.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kristen, when you say we're trending, I think I'm hearing this right, that we're trending downward from the 2.1% increase.
That is correct.
I mean, so right now, if you were to, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but if you were to ballpark it, are we at 0.5%? Are we at 1.5%? Where are we?
We're somewhere around zero-ish. Around zero,
Okay.
between zero and one, I guess.
But 500,000 is still in that formula for out of our rainy day fund, if you
Correct.
will, or out of our general fund. Keep that in mind, everyone.
That is
before
correct.
Yes, so to get to the 2.1% budget, we actually have used $500,000 of our surplus. Is that
Yes, as a
correct?
revenue source, yes, we have.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
So are we, if going forward, I think next week we have our last public hearing, correct?
Yes.
At that point, are we going to be able to say possibly that we have a 0% tax increase?
We'll be able to say pretty close to that, but it is still moving. It'll be moving. It probably won't be moving a lot. So we'll as always, we're always in this position. This isn't anything new.
Yep.
It will be able to have a pretty good estimate next week, but it is still moving until we certify the tax roll.
And
So-
go
Yes,
ahead,
that it will
Jason.
move in the opposite direction.
The chances are pretty low, but I'll let Sal answer that as far as what returns for the businesses he's got left to process.
Okay.
Now, Sal, if you want to pipe in.
Go ahead, Sal.
Kristen was correct in her response. We're still moving forward. Most of the big returns have already been accounted for, so nothing big, nothing as big as what we gained, anywhere near it. That, it wouldn't negate any of the revenue that we're going to see from it. So, I mean,
So I mean, it's the goal. I would, and the rest of the council can throw things at me. But the goal is always to get as close to zero as you can get to. There's no question about that. That is what our goal is. However, keep in mind the 2.1%, and I'm going to say it again, included $500,000 as listed as revenue coming out of our savings, for lack of a better term. So, and that was to get to 2.1. So our goal is always to get to zero. It's an extraordinary year. We understand we've been through a real tough time, and that's what we'll work towards. But until we all know the numbers, the other variable, quite honestly, and people talk about the Rescue America funds. There are so many different numbers out there. We don't even know what the number is. We're not sure how we're going to be able to use it. And I don't know if Mark and Kristen have any more information on that, if they've been in any other meetings to help solidify that. But I don't think there's been any new information. And I've said to people, I see, numbers out there from 2.87 million to 16.2 million. So I have no idea what that number is. I'm not sure any of us entirely know what it is. The 16.2, I assume, includes money for the schools. We don't know what that breakdown is. So until we get a little more guidance there, it would be difficult to actually wind up with a definitive answer, I would think. And hopefully within the next
That's
week, we'll have
correct.
more information.
I had a Zoom today with the finance directors around the state and in the League of Cities, Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, and we have got no more information. Lots of questions are floating out there looking for guidance. We had Department of Municipal Finance on the call with us. They're not even sure when we're going to get payment or what we're getting. So it's all still a work in progress.
It's not a terrible problem to have. We know we have some money coming our way, but we just don't know
Right.
how much. Yes.
Right.
And how we can spend it. So hopefully our hands
Exactly.
won't be tied too much. But I would venture to say that I would think every council member would agree that our goal is always to get as close to 0% tax increase as we can, but clearly that's not always feasible. If it is, it is. Well, we won't know that until we know the exact numbers.
Well, not one to gamble, but I mean, if we look at the past couple of years, and I think this year, at the end of the year, we have a surplus, which has exceeded 500 the last few years. So, worst case
Yes.
scenario, we've used $500,000 of the cash reserve if we need it or a portion of it. But-
Yes, but we're supposed to also be at a point where there's a minimum related to our charter that we have to keep that
Right.
balance at. And we also, we don't want to be at the minimum. We want to have a healthier balance in there. And the more we can put in there, the better off we are long-term, the better outlook it has on people who do bond ratings for us and things like that. So you certainly don't want to spend that down unnecessarily, but I agree with you, Jason. It's an extraordinary year and hopefully we will be able to do something extraordinary.
I'll be honest with you that, I'm not stressing spending $500,000 of a surplus from last year to help cover next year if it's going to help the taxpayer.
I absolutely agree.
All right, Steve O'Rourke, are you ready? I know you're unmuted and I know you had some questions and I did bring up to the council that you did send the letter to us back about 6 months ago. Unfortunately, the council never received that letter. So if you just want to go over what you're here tonight for and we can discuss it. Can't hear you, Steve. No, I don't hear Steve. He is unmuted. Does anybody else from the public want or have any discussion?
Steve,
Why,
looks like his is muted now.
Yeah, I unmuted him and he's unmuted now.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm disappointed my picture isn't there because you'd all be pleased I'm such a handsome devil. And I would like to start off by thanking the new town clerk for her assistance today. Without her, we wouldn't be on here at all, figuring this out. We're here this evening. I'm here actually with 5 of our 6 commissioners. And as you know, Council President and Council people, that they sent a letter to you. They've requested an increase in their stipend. I think their stipend is justified considering the amount of work they do. We have more than 12 meetings a year, which a lot of places do too, but they work very hard. They have also committee work they do, and they have a board retreat that really taxes them every year. As a sort of a justification, we have set up a resident advisory board of tenants in public housing. That we have meetings around 6 times a year. Of course, it's been less this year because of the pandemic, but we have saved the town a lot of money. You haven't been paying anything under the Tenants Affairs Board anymore because we pay the Resident Advisory Board out of Housing Authority funds. We're not allowed to pay stipends to commissioners with the federal funds. So if you have any questions specific
Steve, can you
questions,
refresh my memory as to what the commissioners are paid? Is it $25 per meeting?
They're
$50
paid
per meeting?
25 per meeting, and they're requesting 75. I know it's a dramatic percentage increase, but not in real dollars. When you consider the amount of money you save by not having a Tenants Affairs Board anymore to have to pay. And in relationship to some of the other commissions you have in town, I think the 25 is fairly low. We also have one commission that doesn't accept a stipend because he's on another commission. And I guess the town rules are that if you're on one, you can't get paid from another. And like I said, I have several of the commissioners here with me, chairman, the vice chairman, and a couple of the commissioners. Any questions? Did everybody get the letter, get an opportunity? I know there was a lot of trouble with correspondence this year.
No, I will say that the council did not receive that letter.
Okay.
Mr. President, can I say something?
Yes, John, go ahead.
So I just want to, go back to the last couple of years. I don't know if you guys recall, but I did make an argument for this board to receive more money. Again, $25 an hour for a meeting, it's really not reasonable given, the cost of what these people are giving up, the commitment that they have. I've made the argument, and this is going to actually move into another argument that I have a little bit later on that I prepared. I think people deserve to be paid fairly. They need to, we need to be competitive in a lot of ways. And we are not able to get people on these different boards. Part of it could be because there's no compensation. So to ask, and even for 100% increase to say $50 would be reasonable.
I would say, Councilman D'Amico, that in the letter that was sent to the council that you obviously didn't receive, I'll make sure everyone gets it. I'll send it to your home addresses. There's a justification in comparing with other housing authorities around the state. We're really on the low end here.
I agree.
And how many meetings do you have a year, Steve?
We have around 15. Then we have a board retreat. Then we have other days, we have training sessions.
So when
In
would
fact,
the
we have a 2-day
75,
training session coming up.
when would
Beg
the
your pardon?
75, when would the 75 be paid for each one of those gatherings? Is that coming, or what
No,
are you
no,
suggesting? No, okay.
No, I think your regulations for the town, because I remember when I first arrived here, when they're having several meetings a month, I would submit them, and the finance director or the clerk, I forget who it was at the time, sent it back, so you only allowed the one meeting for pay.
Right. So we'd be talking about 12 times 75 is what your ask is per person?
Yes.
$900 per person?
That's correct, and it'll only be for 5 of the 6, because one doesn't take remuneration because they're on another commission.
We do have to put that in the budget, though, in case that person resigns and the
True.
next person decides to take that stipend. And that person could actually change their mind because they could say, I don't want the stipend for the other board, and go to the larger stipend.
That's true.
In comparison to the other boards, though, and I value time, believe me, I think $25 is very low, and I would be for an increase with that. I just can't see it. If we're going to go to 75 for one board, then we have to look at planning, zoning, board of canvassers. I think it should all be equal across the board, because somebody on planning may have that expertise versus housing may have that expertise versus board of canvassers may have that expertise. So which one do you weigh more? You know, so I'd be for everything being equal across the board. If everybody's at 50, they're at 50. Right now, if there's a board at 75, and I don't know offhand, I apologize. Again, I'm for an increase as long as it's fair and even.
At the end of the day, and I'm not against an increase. At the end of the day, though, I know David, you said maybe some of that why we have, or John, one of you guys just said, maybe that's a problem. Why we have a problem finding people for these boards. I mean, do you think $50 difference? Again, I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but do you think that makes the difference to make or break between somebody saying, I'm going to be part of this board because I'm going to get $50 more? I think there's a lot of other considerations of why people don't sign up for these boards that we don't really have to get into, but I don't think that's necessarily the reason.
I agree. There's probably a number of reasons, but think of it this way. So we have boards, I think planning and zoning, they each get $50 a piece. Why shouldn't this board also receive $50 a piece? They work equally as hard.
No, I don't. And like I said, I'm not disagreeing to give them more money. Like, that's totally fine and they deserve it. I'm just saying, I don't think that's specifically the reason that we have troubles filling these boards. I think it goes a lot deeper.
Well, there's definitely a number of reasons, no doubt.
I mean, I think it's a big commitment for any of these, whatever board it is, whether it's, planning, zoning, town council. I mean, they're all a big commitment. I think at the end of the day, it's more of the time commitment that I think that steers people away from a lot of these things.
But I think I could justify myself, though, if I get to give up a couple hours a night, even though it's per month. And it's more than just, it's more than not. It's not just a meeting. When you're on a board like this, there's research, there's investigation, there's phone calls, there's everything plus the meeting. So
of course, yeah.
I'm looking at it like, all right, I'm gonna do all this, and all right, here's my check for $25.
Yeah.
Then you weigh your options and think some up in life, and it's like, all right, what's gonna give here? Do I really wanna? Is this really worth it?
Yeah, sometimes you almost rather not get anything than the $25.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm for an increase of 50 across the board.
I agree.
It's 250. It's 250, not increase of 50.
They don't do what we do.
Anybody else from the council?
Are you back?
Yeah.
With you?
Gotta reboot.
She told me to FaceTime you.
All right, so I have Councilman Licciardi to $50, Councilman Messier to $50, Councilman D'Amico, I think you said yes. Councilwoman Williamson?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't disagree with what Jason Licciardi said is we should probably be consistent across all and take a look at it, but I don't necessarily have a problem with that. So that would be, what did we say?
The $2,650 increase to that budget.
Exactly.
So
right.
I'm going to do the errata sheet. So what I'm going to do is keep track of all these potential increases and decreases. And then next week we can vote on them all.
Okay.
That
So
works.
if you want me to put that on as the first one
Thank you.
at the $50.
Yes.
Okay.
So how much of an increase is that, Kristen? I'm sorry.
100%.
So I did 50 times 6 people times 15 meetings would bring it to 4,500. We already
think
have
it's only
1,850 budgeted.
Didn't we say only one a month?
I
could be
wrote down
paid for?
15. But
No, I know, but then I thought that Stephen came back and said one per month.
he said something about that, but I mean, I know other boards have more than one meeting a month and they get paid for them. So maybe he can clarify. Is it 12 or 15?
So why can't we get paid for more than one meeting a month?
Okay, relax.
Mr. O'Rourke?
Yeah, okay,
I think Steve's getting beat up.
yeah, so I think maybe we need to have that, but it can't be that you can call a meeting every day either. So there has to be some cap on it, I would think. And I don't know if there is a cap currently in the charter or in ordinance or resolution. I don't know any of that. So
You could address it with a not to exceed number of
Mm.
meetings in a particular year.
Right.
That way you can keep a
Right.
control on your budget.
I don't think they're
Correct.
trying to make a living off the housing authority. I think.
Oh,
they're
no, no.
paying for Additional meeting.
No, I know that, but if you're saying you're gonna pay for each one, and again, I think Mr. O'Rourke said that he got some guidance somewhere along the way from the clerk or the finance person, and obviously I wasn't Kristen, so it might have been a previous one,
Wasn't me.
saying that it could only be one a month. I don't know where that rule came from. I don't know.
I
If we
think,
put it at-
I think it would be
we
a
put it
great,
not to exceed 15.
You can make it uniform across the board as a not to exceed. And then, so anybody that's interested in the position or someone that's already been appointed knows exactly when they're going to get paid and when they're not. And if it's not done, I don't believe it's done by charter, Councilwoman Williamson. I think the council could probably do the payment by ordinance. So that going forward, it would address everything equally as of probably January 1st for the fiscal year going forward. And I think that would make it uniform, and then everybody would know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah,
And we
'cause
would
if they're
actually-
meeting, I mean, if they're meeting more, they should get paid. I mean, that's only fair if they're meeting, you know.
we don't, just wanted to bring to your attention, we don't have really unnecessary meetings, only when we
Oh,
have
no,
to
no, no,
have
no.
them. And I think,
No,
I think
absolutely.
it would be a, I know you weren't saying that, but I'm just make it clear. I think it would be a great compromise if you're gonna settle for 50 or establish a standard rate for all your commissions and committees. That if they have more than one meeting, if they have a couple of extra meetings a year, that at least get reimbursed for their time.
I agree.
So I would agree with that too. So Kristen, could you actually do some gazintas for us to tell us what that would amount to for all boards? I know that's a little bit,
Yes.
I know that's a little bit of an ask.
I'll have
but-
to work with Sarah to find out how many boards get paid.
Okay,
So that, yeah, I can do that.
thank you. And you put that on the sheet for voting next week, right?
So what am I putting on the sheet? The 2650, the 15 meetings, or the 12?
It sounds like we heard an agreement that not to exceed 15 meetings a year. I thought
Okay.
that's what we heard.
All right, I just want to make sure. So 2650 for housing board, I'll put on the sheet. And then how much to raise every board to $50 per meeting? I will look
Take a look.
into that.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
Somebody said a couple, do any of those boards get paid 50 already? I think some,
Yeah,
Board
I
of,
think
Board
they
of
do.
Canvases does, I think Board of Canvases does. And I think
Planning might.
planning
Might.
might, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure about zoning.
yeah,
So
because
the
actually
hearing- Go ahead,
we
Jen.
raised the board, of canvases, I think, like maybe 2 years ago, right?
Well, the chairman gets a little more, I think it's 75, and the Board of Canvases gets 50. But
There's a zoning tax assessor review board that gets paid. And they believe they get paid $50 already, but
Okay,
there's not many meetings for them. They're nowhere close to exceeding the 15.
thank you, Sal.
I think juvenile hearing board doesn't get anything. And those people, when things are normal, they're there every single month. Some of them have been there for years. Guy like Paul, who's served for years and years, Susan Bank, who's served for years. They're not getting paid.
But we can look at that. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you to the Housing Authority Board for
Thank you.
attending tonight.
Thank you for your consideration. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Let me mute him before they start yelling at him. I have another hand up. Derek, we'll allow you to talk. You're muted.
Hear me now?
Yes.
That's Derek, 62 Andrews Ave. Couple of questions. Looking through the budget, I don't see a line item budget number for the completion of the cleanup, remedies, and plantings at River Point Park. I think that should be in there because that could be quite extensive.
Don, you want to speak on that? Yep.
Okay. We're committed to 16 trees, and we have that in the budget. That project was paid for out of a capital account. It wasn't on a line item out of our budget. And the only other future costs that we may get on this is they may want us to put a few shrubs in the middle or along the slope. But I'm going to do my best to convince them that that's foolhardy. So I don't see it as a big expense, and I think we're pretty well set for it.
So as a taxpayer, Don, do we have that in writing?
We've been working with the DEM all along, and they've been happy with our progress. And again, we'll probably have them back here in probably 3 to 4 weeks for a final inspection. And again, the only thing that will be outstanding is the shrubbery. And what I'm hoping for is that massive jungle crap that's already down there, the bittersweet, the poison ivy, the Japanese knotroot, etc. I'm hoping that takes over the slope so that we don't have to mess with it.
All right. Next thing, the Prism contract for street lighting. Is that 100,000 or 99 point something thousand I read?
We lowered it. Yeah, hold on one second.
I think that's what I saw. Page 26.
The budgeted amount is 110,000.
Yeah.
We budget a monthly amount plus extra for any repairs that may occur.
Okay. Do we pay any contractors or in-house employees anything above and beyond that to inspect and or repair streetlights?
It's in our contract with Prism.
So we don't have any other employees that go and inspect these things to see if they're working, if they're strobing, all that kind of stuff?
Well, we have an electrical inspector who will do that in the morning. He'll send over any complaints that we receive. He does that early, he comes in sometimes 4 in the morning. And I'm not even sure if he's still doing it, but last I knew, that's who was in charge of doing it.
So is that within that 100,000?
It's in the electrical, it's within the electrical building department.
So don't you think that should be part of streetlights in that budget item for streetlights, an allocated amount for him to drive around and check lights?
Well,
if you want coming out of something else?
Well, if you want to, for Kristen, I mean, if you want to move it from the building official's office to there and want to see how many hours a week or how many hours a month he does there, I mean, if it's for accounting purposes.
I mean, I think it's appropriate. I think he's appropriately in the building official's office as the electrical inspector. I mean, we could track it to see how much time.
Yeah.
If you want to do that for a year and see how much time he spends on that.
I'm just saying $100,000 contract for Prism to do it. I just, if we have somebody else doing it, then we should cut somewhere. We either cut him out from doing it or we cut Prism's contract back. I mean, we shouldn't be double dipping for the same purpose.
Well, Derek, Prism doesn't drive around town for us and deal with the complaints. Prism's responsibility is when, and if you go on our website, you can file a claim saying your street light's not working, and Prism will go out and fix that light. Or if the electrical inspector or council person gets that complaint, we send it over to the building official's office to Joe Argenti, and he'll submit it in to get that light fixed. Prism does not drive around inspecting our light bulbs.
Okay. Where can I find a copy of that contract?
That would be somewhere in town hall, probably the clerk's office.
I'll put that request in.
Derek, it's kind of like when you compare it to Nicole, our recycling coordinator, where she's like, I call her, she's the front line and she's the town representative. That's kind of what Joe Argenti is. If you have an immediate issue in town and like pole number 15 out on New London Turnpike is flickering and it's out, Joe Argenti would be the guy we send the email to. It's almost like a pass between, kind of like if Mega misses your garbage stop, I'm gonna get the call. I'm gonna call Nicole. Nicole will get on it because she has the relationship with Mega, just like Joe has the relationship with Prism, and it kind of gets done faster that way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then we'll go to legal. We're going on 2, maybe 3 years without a solicitor contract, and we keep paying legal fees. When are we going to give Mr. Williamson, not that he deserves a contract, but give him a contract? Or when are we going to put it out to bid for another contract? And when are we going to put another bid out for all our solicitors rather than just open checkbooks? I've asked this question, I think 2, maybe 3, this is probably the 3rd budget I've asked this question. And call it what you want, but he had a contract, now he doesn't have contracts. So we're either gonna have contracts or we're not gonna have contracts. It's one or the other. So for you to put a line item in there for legal services, I can put a number in there too. It doesn't mean that's the number. So as a taxpayer, I want to see a contract for solicitor, each solicitor. And then we can actually put a budget number together for legal services because we know what that contract number is. And David, I've asked you this for, I think, at least 2 years in a row.
I think I've answered it 2 years in a row.
And in 2 years in a row, there's still no contract.
Well, I've answered you're going out to bid, and again,
Hopefully the next charter committee is a little smarter and they take that clause out. So the protection agency won't be around anymore. So as a taxpayer, I would like to see solicitor contracts across the board so that the taxpayer knows what they're paying for legal advice in the town of West Warwick, not just a number. Anybody can scratch in a number in the column and say that's what it's going to cost. But the taxpayer doesn't know what it costs at the end unless they're like me and they do public records requests for invoices unredacted.
thank you, Derek. We'll take that under advisement. Is that it? Is that it, Derek? I have Pamela Poulin. Just state your name and address for the record. Pam, you're on mute.
Am I still muted? Am I muted?
Control 8.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I hear Howie and Pam.
Yeah, this is me. This is Howie Brown. I live at 9 Miller. Hey, this transparency thing you guys are talking about is pretty nice and all, but, 2.1 tax increase for me at 9 Miller Drive, okay? You're talking about giving extra money to these board people, but yet you pay a guy to drive around in the dock from 3:30 to his first inspection at 7 o'clock. So if you figure this out, 10 and a half hours a week, the guy makes $273 a week, and he doesn't help one taxpayer. He drives around looking at streetlights. We have policemen that go to Arctic, they look up, all the streetlights, I'll put it in your report. This fucking guy is, excuse my language, this guy is stealing on a daily basis, and you guys.
I didn't mute him, but somebody.
I muted him. Do you want him to speak? He cursed.
Howie, I'll let you speak one more time. Please watch your language. All right, I have some.
Hey, he is an inspector for the taxpayers and businesses. He's not to be driving around at 3:30. He's working 10 hours a week in the dock, and he's only getting 8.5 hours according to the books, helping the taxpayers. Does that make any sense to you? It's like, when the guy stole the work booth at the public works, they fired him. When Stephen Andrewchild used the backhoe, they fired him. This guy is stealing time, and you guys don't want to do nothing about it. The guy ain't in there at 3:30 in the morning. He's up at freaking Route 2. He's up
All
there
right,
at
Howie,
Vision Road.
Howie,
I'm telling
I'm
you,
gonna have to.
straighten it out.
Okay, Howie,
If not, I'm calling the state police.
Thank you, Howie. Have a good night. Tom Oates, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way. I apologize. I tuned in late. I've had a few issues. Mr. Reed had just made a comment regarding the contract. David, you stated that you had mentioned this twice before, and then Mr. Reed unfortunately stepped on you. I didn't catch your answer. Could you help me? What was the response to the contract in the past?
Well, he said he wants to see contracts. I told him that we would take that under advisement, but also he said that he's asked about going out to bid the last 2 years. And if you look in the charter, as Mr. Reed stated, that for legal advice and legal, we do not have to, or let me rephrase that, for, and I know I'm using the wrong term here, but we don't have to go out to bid on that type of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of, and I'm still.
I understand what you're
I still
stating.
hear somebody else talking in the background, so.
Okay, I understand what you're saying as far as in the charter, but it's my understanding that West Warwick is the only municipality in the state that does not have any positions like that do not go out to bid. They all go out to bid, and they change very often. Mr. Carullo shaking his head no. Which community does not have it out to bid? I'll have to check because my notes could be wrong.
Well, Tom, I've gone through this for the past 10 years. I don't know who's yelling, but somebody, I've gone through this the last 10 years, and I've also compared solicitors throughout the state. And I've even compared to Situate, where Situate is spending $600,000 a year on an attorney. So it varies from town to town, and it all depends. When you're talking about an attorney at $125 an hour, and you might get one that wants $365. I know somebody actually called me wanting to be the solicitor and said their going rate is $335. So it all depends on what you want to do here. If the council wants to go out to bid, that's up to the council.
But still, Mr. Carullo was smiling and shaking his head in the negative. Maybe he could advise me which community does not put it out to bid?
City of Warwick does not go out to bid. The town of Jamestown does not go out to bid. Situate does not go out to bid. I can go on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Derek, unmute you again.
I find it very appealing that.
Just state your name and address for the record.
This is Derek, 62 Andrews Ave. I find it very, I don't know you know how to say appealing. And Mr. Carullo would even try to defend Mr. Williamson after what he did to him during deposition. That's all I'm going to say.
This is about the budget. Thank you.
Well, that's why we need to get a new solicitor. Taxpayers need to pay attention.
Dave, can I add something?
Yes, and before you move on, I do have Pamela Poulin Brown with her hand up, and I want to know if that is Howie or if that is Pamela. So go ahead, Jay.
Well, I actually wanted to address what Mr. Brown had said earlier. It seems very upset, very passionate about what he was talking about. However, that's an internal thing. And that's something that could be looked at internally. If there needs to be more oversight and more accountability, with a particular staff person. And that's kind of how that works. So I don't want him to think that this is not going to go unnoticed. This is something that we could look into. Not going to say what the result is, or I don't even know really what the hell is going on here, but just let us take the track first and figure out what's going on. That's all I'd like to say with that.
Obviously, he knows a lot more about the payroll than I do, so it's the first, first I'm really hearing of that much information. So Mark, we'll put that on your plate. And Sherry. Again, I don't know who this is, if it's Pamela or Howie, but I am going to unmute them. Howie, I would ask you from refraining from yelling and screaming.
No, you're fine. Listen, guys, I apologize. I'm a little animated. My wife works hard. You guys are all good friends of mine. I like you all, but the transparency we're struggling this town. Now you're telling me 2.1 tax increase, but yeah, well, the whole time Fred Presley was here, nobody did anybody's job. Nobody did an evaluation on anybody. Fred gave the roots away. He gave everybody freaking $5,000 stipends. He gave everybody. You know what? Now you got a great person involved. You got a nice town manager, very smart, intelligent people. Now it's time to get rid of the dead one. Get rid of the people. You know what? And go on and move forward. Because I'm telling you right now, this guy is 72 years old. He steals money like there's no tomorrow. But whether you want to hear it or not, that's your business. 3:30 in the morning for an electrical inspector who was supposed to go investigate an old lady's house in Natick. I'm telling you.
We're going to look.
I'm done. I'm done.
We're going to look into the matter. Thank you.
Well, I hope so. It's all about transparency, isn't it? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. I love you guys.
I love you. I'm doing good.
It's been a while since you got one of those up there, Dave.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while since I've been sitting in this chair too. Any other public comment? Any comment from the council?
Yes, David, can I have a couple of minutes?
Sure, John.
If the whole council will just humor me for a couple of minutes, I actually wrote this down because it's really important to me. I think I don't want to miss anything. As you guys know, I am resigning and my last day will be April 2nd. So I don't have anything to gain from this, especially monetarily. But I want to make the argument for a raise for the council. And I want to give you some of the reasons why I think this is the right time. So bear with me. So first of all, when I was elected to the council back in 2016, along with Councilman Licciardi and Councilman Messier, things were not good. Literally, the town was just starting to recover from receivership 2 years into the 5-year plan. At that time, it just wouldn't make sense to even discuss any type of pay raise. And in fact, at that time, if you think about it, even some of the town employees were not receiving any type of stipend, any type of increase. And in fact, some departments were actually giving back. So definitely not a good time to ask. But here we are 4 years later, and thankfully the town is definitely in a much better position. And just thinking about my past 4 years and the time that I have put into this job on a weekly basis, monthly basis, literally 25 to 40 hours every single month between the council meetings, associated meetings, whether it's an executive session, sewer commission, constituent meetings, phone discussions, emails, whether I'm responding or just reading them. The reading alone takes hours, right? We were recently delivered a binder this thick, right? I mean, I couldn't even lift the thing. that went along with the playground, the prep time before meetings, going back and looking at recorded meetings of, say, planning or zoning or what have you, just so that we can stay in the loop and we can answer constituent questions. There's a lot of people who would say, well, it's a civic duty. There's a pride in it, and that is so true. I agree with that 100%. I've always believed that. But similar to the discussions that we've had in the past with the people on our board, people are not readily stepping up to be council members as well. And, maybe for the good moving forward of future leaders, of people who might be interested in the position, maybe we need to offer more. And what I would say is the current pay of a council person at $416 a month, considering that some of us are putting in 25 to 40 hours a month, it's basically minimum wage. And so my argument would be this, that the remaining council members really take this into consideration, not only for themselves and the effort and the work that they put into it and the sacrifices that they make, but also for future people who might be interested in serving the council. I would probably propose maybe an increase of $2,500. I would also say that the council president works extremely hard and probably deserves more. Maybe 3,000 increase. I'm thinking $7,500 per council person, maybe $8,500 for the position of president. So I appreciate it. I really wanted to get that out there because I really, really think it's important that people fully understand the time that's invested into this. And it's not just about the money, but I think people should be compensated for what they're doing. And at this point, I know a lot of people just wouldn't step up to the position because they just don't see the value in giving up their own time to do it. That's it. That's my spiel.
Well, John, thank you for that spiel. And first and foremost, thank you for your service on the council.
Appreciate it.
And I know we've even had, Bert Mollahan year over year say the same exact thing that you've said, our town sergeant. I even know going back a few years ago, Mr. Oates was even a proponent of that. It's definitely to be considered, but as a council, we can discuss it. And I want to thank you for those kind words for everything. That's all I have.
Steve, I'd like to add to that. I'd like to add to that, what Councilman D'Amico was saying. We came in together in 2016, and I remember some conversations, and it's all new. It's all you have a lot of energy. It's all fun. You come in and it's the holiday season, and then it's down to business, and that business doesn't take place Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. I mean, I do a lot of my things early, like at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm typing emails to the DPW director on a Sunday morning, or I'm on the phone with our town manager on a Saturday afternoon, cringing that I don't want to call him, but this is the only time that I have. And time is very valuable. And that stipend that we get, in the beginning it was great, but 5 years later, I really think the time that we put in, the time, I can only speak for myself, the time that I put in is a lot more than, it's justifiable for an increase. I would not be looking for $2,500. I was thinking more of $1,200, which would be equivalent to $100 a month. And I think it's well deserved. I mean, there's the reading alone, and I think Mary Beth can attest to this, the amount of time that we've spent with the wastewater treatment facility this year. I spent almost the same amount of time as I have on the council. And it's not just that 3 o'clock subcommittee meeting that lasts for 2 hours. It's the prep work before that. It's the aftermath. And as far as the council, a lot of people don't understand is, it's not just 2 council meetings per month and you're done. In order not to look foolish, you got to prepare for it. I read the budgets through and through. We just received a document from the sewer plant. It's 38 pages long. You know, I mean, am I going to read it? Yes. When am I going to read it? Probably around 10 o'clock at night when other people are going to bed. So there's a lot that we do that goes unnoticed to the public. So I definitely would be for an increase. However, I'm also looking at banking the fact that we're not going to have a 2.1% tax increase. If that were the case, then I would say no. But if we're going to have a 0% increase, then I would say yes to this. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I do think we could deserve it, and I could justify this even more.
Jay or Mary Beth, do you want to weigh in?
Nothing they said is. Oh, sorry. You can go first, Mary. You go, Mary.
Nope, that's okay, Jason. Go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well,
I'm no lady. You know that. Come on. I wasn't offended by Howie at all, so that's all right. Go ahead, Jay.
I don't think anything that either of them said was wrong. I don't know. I just wouldn't feel right, like, asking for an increase, you know? I mean, the only way I would even consider it is if it was taking place when I was gone and it was for future council seats in my seat, then I'd be okay with it. For the next guy, I'd be totally okay with it. For myself, I think it would be too self-serving for me to ask for a to ask for a raise. Do we do a lot of work? I mean, yeah, our job is a full-time job sometimes. And I mean, I can't quantify it. And it's, you know, it's not the reason that I'm here. And, you know, it goes back to even what we talked about at the beginning of this, when we were talking to Steve O'Rourke. You know, do they deserve more? Yes. But again, at the end of the day, people that are on these boards, including us, I would hope to think most of them are in it because they care about the community. So for me, you know, I would probably be not for it. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. Again, do we deserve it? Possibly, but I wouldn't ask for it.
Well, I'm glad I let you go first because I thought I was going to be the only naysayer. It is not something I would be comfortable with. I don't do it for the stipend. I don't think any of us do. I would maybe suggest a different tact. There is work involved. There's no doubt. Perhaps putting something together, even for the charter, that says that there is an inflation clause or something happens where other councils don't have to struggle with this to give themselves a raise, might be something to consider. I don't know what the starting point is, but you could always tie it to inflation or do something like that. But I would be uncomfortable asking for an increase at this point in time.
And
Mr. President?
hold on, Tim, I'm going to speak my case. I know I let everybody else go, and I know I spoke a little bit earlier. And I agree with Councilman Licciardi and Councilman D'Amico. You know, I know I've been on here the longest. I know 15 years and it's been the same. And I will say, and Tim, you can probably speak to this because 2002, I think it was when it was reduced. The council used to get closer to 10 grand in healthcare, if I'm correct. And
$5,000 a year plus healthcare.
yes. And that healthcare stipend right there alone is worth $7,500 to $15,000, depending on what type of healthcare it is. And that was done by a former council, I think back in 2002. They reduced their pay to $5,000 and got rid of the healthcare. And that was when the town was struggling, and the town is rightfully so still struggling. But you know, I'm going to be honest here. Everybody on this panel, everybody has seen some type of raise over the last 5 years, except for 5 of us. And, you know, and I've always been a proponent not to. I mean, there was times I had council people come to me and say, councilmen should get pensions. And I'm totally against that. But, you know, a nice, I'm not saying a nice raise, but a little stipend to think about the amount of fuel just driving around this town, to complaints, to issues. Tomorrow, 1:30 meeting called today. Got a 1:30 meeting tomorrow. We do meet a lot more, and I'll speak for Mary Beth and Jason. You get your calls. We all get our calls. And Jay Messier, you constantly get it on Facebook. You're sending me stuff that in my ward. It's a 24/7 job lately, and it's been that way for at least the past 3 or 4 years, and it gets very difficult at times. And yes, people do hold our feet to the fire, and we have to do our job. But when you figure it out and on paper, after you do your taxes and whatever else, you're probably making about 15 to 25 cents an hour, and that's where it stands with the council. So I agree, and John, I thank you for, I know this is your last hurrah per se of, you're leaving and it doesn't affect you. So, thank you for bringing it up. And, but again, right now, it looks like it's 2-2, and 2-2 means no if John's not here next week. So just pointing that out.
Approve it for you guys. Can I approve it for you guys? You guys can get it.
Can I, Mr. President, the charter has a section 506 as it relates to compensation. So even if this particular council voted to increase the town council's pay, it would not take effect until the next biennial town council election. So you'd have to wait for the next council to reap the benefit of a pay increase. So you couldn't really give yourselves a pay increase unless you were reelected next time around.
And I'm not, and again, I'm for that. It could be not for me this time. It could be for the next council.
So that was sort of
opinion.
that was sort of my argument when I mentioned the charter. So let's look at the charter, see what it says. And I do know it talks about that. Maybe there should be a change, and perhaps there should be some sort of, again, inflation clause, something potentially. And that's just one way to handle it, because it isn't awkward. But again, to give myself a raise, even if it's $1,200, how many flower pots will that buy for the streets, and how many? I'm sorry, I just
if I could take the 1,200 and then give it to the flower pots, then I'd be down for that. Barbara could use those. Well, it's Mary Beth. We'll take 2,400. We'll go buy Barbara some flower pots.
There you go.
If it's for a future council, then I would be all right revisiting that. I mean, obviously that would be something we'd have to revisit in the charter. Like, I would be all right doing it for a future council. Absolutely, not for myself though.
So at this point, it wouldn't even be on this budget. So it's kind of a
that's
moot
right.
point.
So it's something that we probably should sit down, talk about, review, and think about.
It could be part of your process, because it clearly states members of the town council shall receive such annual salaries as shall from time to time be presented by the town council and approved by the budget process. So you could approve it in this budget process or next year's budget process. It only takes effect as of 2024. No, actually,
2022 after the election.
22.
No, but it'd be the following fiscal year.
But so I wouldn't approve anything now, not knowing what, there are too many variables. I wouldn't do
But
it now.
you do have the
Yes.
authority to do it. It just affects future
Right.
councils.
Right. So actually, I do want to say thank you to John also. It seems like it's to me, seems pretty sudden, and all of a sudden he'll be gone if this is your last meeting. So I did want to make sure that publicly I said thank you
I
for,
appreciate that.
you've been,
You guys have truly been awesome. I have had a fantastic experience. I am looking forward to the next chapter, but I wish I could write a letter to each and every one of you. I have learned so much from so many of you, and I will definitely take that with me. And I truly appreciate this experience and the opportunity to serve.
so will you come, if we ever have a St. Patrick's Day parade again, will you come and march in it, or?
Absolutely.
All right, okay.
I asked him for a bid tonight. He said, "This Is Us" is on. He don't want to come out.
Well, what I said was, it's a repeat
told you.
if I had known earlier.
So we will do that. We will pick a non-Tuesday, This Is Us night, and absolutely do that.
All right, Sounds good.
And I just want to point out, I don't know if everybody can see the chat. I'm not sure if Jason Licciardi or Jay Messier can see the chat, but from a Jerry Lee, it says, "You folks deserve a raise for all the work that you do." Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, John. Crazy. I didn't think I would outlast you on the council, but here we are, right? I appreciate it, John. And I remember the day I called you when I decided I was going to run, and you probably
Told you not
thought
to do it.
twice. Yeah, you did. You did tell me that. A lot of people told me that, but you got to do what's right for you and your family, and that's got to come first. You know what I mean? So I wish you nothing but the best, and in your future endeavors, sir.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
John, good luck. I know
Thank you, Jack.
there's been times we haven't agreed on issues, but it's nice that we could talk it out, and with disagreements come other factors. So I mean, it's really, my eyes opened a little bit after every discussion we've had. So, it's been 4.5 years. So, thank you for serving on the council list.
And
John,
please,
Thank you.
please thank Tammy and the
I
family
will.
for us as well, because that does take a toll as well. So please give them our best, my
Thank
best.
you.
and John,
I don't
most of
wanna go-
all, go ahead, Jay.
No, you go first.
No, I want to finish. No, go ahead, Jay.
All I was going to say is, I know we're not going to go deep into the weeds, but there is something about this on the next agenda, correct? Because I know there's going to be a lot of questions for people that don't
Yes.
know.
Yes,
Okay,
we're going to
that's it.
discuss it on the next agenda. John, most of all, you were a great councilman. You did it with dignity, respect, and admiration, and ethically. But most of all, you were a great councilman, but you become a great friend also. So
Appreciate it, Dave.
I'll definitely miss you up here. It was, I got to know you over the last 6-7 years, running campaigns and everything else that you've done, always being involved prior to this, and you and your family. Tammy, I know even she ran for office once here, and it's never easy, and it puts a lot of stress on families when we're doing this job. And sometimes we go out to breakfast and you got everybody talking to you and doing whatever, but like I said, most of all, you're still going to be a great friend, and we'll definitely be keeping in touch, and hopefully you'll be able to drive out of your lovely town of Lincoln and come visit us in West Warwick, or we can come visit you up in Lincoln.
Well,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I'll still be available. I mean, whoever takes my place, let them know I am available. Whatever questions they have, I certainly want to help.
and seeing Anthony as a teenager it was very interesting, considering
Right.
when you first ran for this, he was a young little
Yep.
8-year-old. Was it 8 years old when you first ran?
Probably.
So again, watching your family grow and having many conversations with them, congratulations and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Do we have any more public comment? I don't see anybody raising their
I'm going to let you
hand.
do. I'm going to let you do it tonight, John, because I do it all. You got to do it the last one.
I hope I can do it justice. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, there you go.
Sorry.
Second to Mr. Messier. Yes.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.